Hey guys, my name is Terry and I'm a collectibles dealer. I'm a big fan of music, but I'm not an expert. That's why we've got Johnny D.
Yo, this is Kashif, and you're in the mix with Johnny D.
All right. Hey, welcome back. And Johnny, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Today we got a special guest. Jeremy, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Jeremy. I'm Jeremy Office, music collector, music passionate about music history. So just feel good to be here.
How did we meet? We met through a mutual friend, and right away we kind of hit it off because we, obviously, collectibles aspect of it. And I think I actually got you a piece one time. Is that, do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, the Fat Boy piece.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, exactly.
What was that? Which piece? What piece was that?
It was a Fat Boys piece, which is rare, right? To get all three on there at this point is a tough find. So.
It's autographed?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, they're all dead, right? Didn't they all die?
I think one's alive. I think one is still alive.
Oh, Prince Marky just died, right?
Yes,
he was alive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was cool,
that's
I
great.
mean, growing up listening to them, and Terry called me up. He's like, "Hey, I think I've got a piece that you might like," and sent me over. I was like, "Yeah, I do like that."
Yeah, it was the first time we did business, so you start small and hopefully build up over time.
Well, ironically, that's a piece because as you're saying it, I've never seen a Fat Boys autograph ever.
Yeah, for all
Like
three of them.
that's pretty crazy. I've never seen a
Now
Fat
you're
Boy.
making me feel like I sold it to him too cheap.
Yeah, you gave him a good deal. Exactly.
Let me make you feel better. I've seen a couple, but in the spectrum of collectibles, to only see a couple others is pretty rare.
Well, I just feel like it fits into your collection really well.
It does.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about your collection, how it got started?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved in collecting music one way or another for 40 years. Like everybody else, I started collecting just vinyl, and then that turned into cassettes. And from there, I started a massive CD collection. Probably got, close to 5,000 CDs that I've been keeping in storage for about 15 years. So I've definitely lost money on that, keeping them in storage for this long. But that really evolved into getting really passionate about collectibles and getting things that were either signed or autographed, or maybe what personal artifacts of musicians or entertainers, and that's where I'm at now. So I'm a pretty serious collector of mostly music, 90% plus music related items.
Is there one genre of music, or is it really broad?
I mean, it's really broad. I mean, I love almost all forms of music. I mean, since I was a little kid, music really speaks to me. I love it, and I think that's what connects us. And there's people who really like music, and then there's people who can't live without music. And so when you find those people who are just hyper passionate about it, you speak a different language with them. You immediately bond with them. You connect with them. You find points, and you may not listen to the same music, but you find instant commonality with them because they understand sort of that unspoken rhythm. But I mean, I grew up. My first sort of introductions to music was 80s R&B. So I listened to like a lot of Gap Band and Midnight Star and Kool and the Gang, and that's really what introduced me to music early on. And so as it became, that just sort of opened up a whole different vantage point for me in terms of what I listen to. And now, I mean, I listen to everything now. I listen to a lot of country. I grew up on a farm in Ohio, so I listened to a lot of country. As I got older, the lyrics started having different meanings to me, but still a ton of R&B and hip hop, and but that's basically what I listen to.
There are like 75 things I want to jump in on that you just said. I definitely want to talk about country music. I love everything you mentioned was like very, very on point. I think it's like you said, when you meet that person. When I used to go into my office, the first thing I did before I put my light on was hit my amplifier to put the music on. When I get in my car, the first thing I do is make sure the music is on. I have radios in my house that are on 24 hours a day. My bathrooms, yeah. And it's so funny because I hang out. I have a lot of friends that could care less about music. They come into my house. I have like this museum vault, and they can give a shit. Like, oh yeah, great. Like, and I think it's kind of funny, and I love having the balance. And it's I see how passionate I am about music and how they're not. And it's like I'll be something will be playing in the background, and my friend will be like, "Oh, this record's driving me crazy." I'm like, but you can listen to sports radio. That drives me crazy hearing
Right.
that like AM, situation. So it's funny. As soon as you said that, and I think it's great that you said the 80s and 90s. I mean, all the Midnight Star Gap and all that stuff. I'm right with you. And it's funny, the last couple of years, I got heavy into country, and my kids thought I was like going through some midlife craziness because I'm a guy playing disco and hip hop, and I'm sitting in the car, doing straight Dr. Dre, and they're looking at the Wu-Tang. Then all of a sudden, I'm doing, you know, you're missing Mississippi and Mia, and they're looking at me like, "Are you nuts?" And I really got into, and it was funny. That Christmas that I got heavily into it, my daughter found a disco ball with a cowboy hat on it, an ornament, and
It's
that was my
perfect. That's
thing she
perfect.
got me. So I like seeing like I like that you touched on those things. That's great.
Are there any specific country bands that both you guys are listening to these days?
Well, I mean, I don't know if a couple of years ago, Chris Berg had that record "Mind on You," which was, I thought that record was incredible. Mitchell Tenpenny, I was, following him for a minute. But when you go to the classics like Tim McGraw, I turned, I have a lot of like black friends in house and hip hop, and we would talk over different stuff. And I would say, you have to listen to this record. And I would be like, I remember like 5 in the morning, I would go into a YouTube link of what's the big Tim McGraw
Well, like Live Like You Were Dying.
says it's a standing room only.
Oh, Standing Room Only. I love that
They're
song.
not standing room only. I would
I
send this
love that
lyric to
song.
everybody and say, listen to what he's saying. I want to live like the dollar, like a dollar and the clock on the wall don't own me. That's like the most incredible.
Goosebumps. I got goosebumps from you saying it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, and I would send that to like hip hop guys and house guys. They're like, "Are you nuts?" I'm like, "No, listen to what this guy is saying. Live my life like the dollar and the clock on the wall don't own me." That's like, how do you beat that lyric? Another record that was crazy was I can't think of his name, but it was crazy because my daughter was 17 at the time, and he goes, next thing you know. You know who that
Yeah,
is?
that's Jordan
Next
Davis.
thing you know, you listen to that record
You
when
get
you
down
talk.
on one knee. Next thing you know, you're moving out at 17. Yeah.
He talks about a single guy. I'm never going to get married.
Yeah.
Meets a girl in a bar. All of a sudden, he's engaged. His friend's giving the speech at the thing. Then the wife is pregnant. It's the then the kid gets old. It's the most emotional song ever. And like I listen to it, I can't even believe that writing. And it's funny because coming like you're saying like R&B, I think that the R&B and the rap has really been horrible the last 20 years, and the
Totally agree.
stuff
Totally
is
agree.
right there. I mean,
Totally agree.
they're making music and it's lyrical and they're tilting more pop. There's just so much about it that's just fantastic.
Johnny, you'll appreciate that. This is how much I'm connecting with what you're saying. In my office, I have a Jordan Davis signed guitar where he writes those lyrics out to that song.
Wow.
So I'm
That's
telling you,
crazy.
and
That is
it
crazy.
gets even stranger because that song is now probably like 4 or 5 years old. I'm guessing maybe even older.
Yeah, I think it's
Uh,
about four. Yeah.
yeah. Just last night, I was watching the U.S. Open, not too far from you, and they've taken that song, sort of re basically remixed it to a degree to make it a little bit more emotional. And I think
Yes.
it's a bank commercial now. I'm not sure, but it's so touching, and it was so
I
well
I have to
done.
see that.
You'll see it. It
I
just
didn't
started airing, so it's so
Yeah,
funny you're bringing that up.
my daughter is 20, and so it's 3 years ago because when he
Okay.
says seven, you never know, 17
Yeah,
years went by. So yeah, it was 3 years ago.
and it's so funny because my daughter is 20, and I'm
Wow.
listening to that song.
And that
It,
that is great. That's exactly it. That record hit every time that comes on. I'm just like, it just gets me every time.
it's amazing. I'm totally with you.
I see there's a little pile of stuff next to you, Jeremy. Anything that you brought that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, I brought. Look, I've have thousands of pieces, and I think that as a collector, what's really interesting is somebody who keeps this stuff. I don't really sell any of my items. It's some of my stuff is very, very valuable to others, and some stuff is very, very valuable to me and has no value to other people. And Johnny, to your point, what you were bringing up, like I have music was defined for me very easily because I grew up on a farm, but I went to school in the city. So every day my commute was about 40 minutes each way, and my mom loved music. And so my earliest memories of music was being 4 and 5 years old, and my mom in her cassette deck would press, she'd press play, and she'd start, but then she'd press pause, and she would say, "Do you understand what this lyrics are talking about?
Wow,
Do you understand what this
big.
is about?"
That's big.
And
That's
so
cool.
my entire connection to music, and I have the world's greatest mom, and I adore my mom, and she taught me so much. So I had 80 minutes every single day of just listening to nonstop music, and that's where the Midnight Star and the Gap Band, but it was so much more. It was John Cougar. He was John Cougar then. It was John Cougar, and it was Luther Vandross, and I mean it was Jackson Browne and Elton John. I mean it was all these different, but it was always about the lyrics. So my everything to me became about what they were saying. The music almost became secondary.
Yes.
So when you were talking about what has happened to rap and what has happened to R&B over the past 20 years, this mumble rap and this sort of almost incomprehensible lyrics out there, it doesn't connect with me on any level.
Absolutely.
But that's why country, I started listening to country probably in 91 or 92. So that was a lot of like George Strait, Brooks and Dunn,
Yes.
Bonnie Raitt,
Hank Jr., right?
Hank Jr., Alan Jackson, that sort of, I don't want to say the golden age or platinum age of country music.
Yes.
But that's when, as you get older, the lyrics even have more and more meaning. It's hard to relate as a 15-year-old to having a 17-year-old going off to college or going off to school. So that long-winded story to say is that so much of my focus is around anything written. So like if I can find things that are written or really rare. So I'll give you a couple examples here. And again, I wanted to bring like a diverse set of stuff that had, I'll start with everything that started it for me. So this album, I'll put this here. Do you know this album, Johnny? It's Billy Preston.
Oh, Billy Preston. Okay.
Right. And so
yes.
for people who don't really appreciate Billy, he's widely known as the fifth Beatle, right? And so as the Beatles' music really began to evolve, particularly on the Let It Be album, where organ and driving organs really became a heavy part of their sound, he redefined the Beatles' sound. And he was just incredible musician. But Billy Preston, late at night, was he had been shifting labels, and Motown brought him on, and they wanted more of an urban soul sound from him. So this was the first album that I ever really got into, where every song I knew every lyric. And so at like 7 years old, this album would be played, and I just loved it. And I never thought I'd find this album. He died 20 years ago or so. And as a collector, nobody would want this album. The album's not worth anything. His autograph isn't worth anything.
Yes.
But to me, it was everything, to find it and and know that there was proof of acquisition and how it was got and everything was really important to me.
So how do you find a piece like that? Is it something like eBay, or do people know that you're looking for it? You have, relationships like me finding the Fat Boys for you, or is it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So a few years ago, I hired somebody to build me a custom database in Airtable to not only catalog all my collection and say where it was from and how much I paid. And sometimes a lot of my pieces I'm continuing to add to. So like, for instance, if I had an incomplete, I'm trying to think, like Coldplay. So for instance, right now I have a Coldplay album that I've only got 2 of the artists on. I need 2 others to get. So that would be like an incomplete piece. So this really helps me. And then I have people literally all over the world who help me, that they're called graphers. And these people help me get additional signatures on them. But in this database, a lot of the times there's really serious collectors, again, all over the world. And I really like working with older collectors because that was sort of the golden age of collecting. Now, so much of it is about just guys trying to flip, and it's really sort of ruined the industry, unfortunately.
Hate it.
They ruined the industry. But 15, 20 years ago, these graphers, they had relationships with these artists. These artists appreciated that they knew so much about their music, and they knew, they knew what they were giving them to sign, and it meant something to them. So I keep basically, I can run a report, and I basically send it to trusted collectors and people who I know that I can just say, hey, here's the current 40 or 50 pieces that I'm looking for, and if you ever come across them, just keep me in mind.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great.
That's really, you're making me feel like I'm not really in this game. I consider myself a maniac. You definitely seem crazier than I am, which I don't find many of those out there. That's impressive.
Well, I tell people all the time, Johnny, I say this all the time, like, I'm not an in-person collector. And I would trade my whole collection to have the experiences that you've had meeting these artists and talking to them, and getting to know them as humans as opposed to just what they see on stage or what they see on TV.
Yes.
Those 3 minutes of connectivity or 10 minutes or whatever relationships, like, the collection is cool and it means something to me, but at the end of the day, it's just an item.
If you don't have the ability to have that in-person moment, though, the collection is a pretty cool way to kind of simulate that. It's the next best thing for sure.
And it's more, the collection is my story. The collection is like,
yes.
it tells what it. If you look at, like, in where I display a lot of my pieces, and if you look at it, like I'm looking behind you, Johnny, and I could walk into your studio, and I could get a feeling for who you are pretty quickly by what's on display. And
I'm going to interrupt you. Right above me on my ceiling, I'm going to read you. So these are all autographed albums that are on my ceiling. So just to show you diversity, Bobby Caldwell, Jocelyn Brown, Grace Jones, Expose, The Whispers, Ray Parker Jr., Herb Albert, Natalie Cole, Jimmy Walker, Billy Ocean, Steve Perry, Ambrosia, Toto, Giorgio Moroder, Donna Summer, Tori Amos and Jewel I worked with, The Tramps, Alan Parsons, one of my favorite, Sergio Mendes, Shaka Khan, Raquel Welch. I mean, it's so, everything you're saying, like, I totally, it's crazy. I mean, you have the database is sounds great, and the fact that you have people that can go out there and do that, I would never even know that exists.
I love that if he's got a project in progress, like, he's got people who
Wild.
will go out and
That's
wild. Yeah. Well, following up on that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of sensed or picked up in what you were saying that the curation aspect of your collection, just like all other collectors, is super important to you. I mean, putting together these pieces that remind you of a certain period in your life or time you spent with your mother, or, I mean, could you talk a little bit about the curation aspect?
Yeah, I mean, that has become, even for my assistant, I mean, it's become a large part of her day-to-day job is managing that. It's a lot, right? I mean, you're talking thousands of signatures and pieces that have come from all over the world, and trying to keep it. And I get all of my pieces authenticated. Most of them now I get pre-authenticated before I buy them and stuff like that, because unfortunately the industry is so, it is so embroiled in fraud. I mean, there's just so much counterfeiting going on, and the counterfeiting is remarkable. And unfortunately, with AI and auto penning and everything else, they're getting so good at creating counterfeits. So having the proof, having the provenance behind, or at least the story to it, is really critical to me. But yeah, I mean, how I maintain things, how I keep every single thing organized. I mean, if you walked in and you saw how, like, all the bins of active pieces versus in progress pieces versus pieces that I'm having issues with, meaning like it got bent and I may have to send to like a restore or something to have it fixed and cleaned up. I mean, it's endless amounts of organization.
I was going to ask you about the authentication aspect. I mean, it's somewhat controversial issue amongst collectors, whether or not these third-party graders or people who give opinion about things. I know Johnny is kind of definitely skeptical. He's kind of told me some of his experiences in the sports card collecting hobby, and I noticed, for instance, that your Billy Preston album it's it doesn't look visibly authenticated.
Yeah, so not to interrupt you, but I do all my authentic. Like a lot of people see it as like a badge of, like they see it as like a badge of proof or something. I love the artwork of album covers so much. So whenever I get my pieces authenticated, I have them sticker the back.
Oh, okay.
But
And
that's
what
just my
company did-
personal preference. A lot of people like doing it on the front.
What company is that? JSA?
That was JSA.
Okay.
So and I know the owners of JSA very well. I think they're great people. The people at Beckett are great. It's humans, and humans are prone to error. And the problem with the industry, and I think both of you fundamentally understand this. It starts with a couple people who are really, really good at what they do. That is nearly impossible to scale or replicate, right? So what are they doing? They're teaching the layer underneath them what to look for. Pen flows, does it slow down in certain areas? Is the pen consistent all the way through, which is a sure, indication that it's fake. If it's the same pressure all the way versus, nobody signs like that. But by the time you get to like the third, fourth, fifth layer of authentication, I mean, and this is no slight against any of the authentication companies. I think they do honest jobs. They try to do what they can. But at the same time, I mean, a lot of the times it's kids, it's young people who really don't know any more about it. And unfortunately, I mean, I've seen dozens and dozens of examples of either way, of pieces that I knew were absolutely solid, good pieces get denied, that I knew everything that they came from. And I have seen absolute fakes get
Oh
approved.
yeah, yes. I mean, same here. I'll go into a place with my kids, and they're not really into it at all. But I'll show them like sports memorabilia place, and I'll be like, "Wow, I cannot believe this place is getting away with this. Everything in the place is fake. Like it's just the most remarkable." But people, you know, the public is pretty dumb overall. And I was on the corner in Brooklyn a couple of years ago, and I'm with two of my friends, and this guy comes by, and he's like, kind of, he's a guy in the name, but I knew his family. I didn't know him too well, but and he's kind of like, he's a little kind of feeling himself. He's like, yeah, I just bought a Frank Sinatra gold record for $12,000. Now he's got no idea who I am. He has no idea how deep I am with gold records and all this kind of stuff. So I said to him, "Could I see? Do you have a picture of what you just bought?" So he sent it to me. This thing was probably worth about, I don't know, $7. It was fake. There was no RIAA certification on it. Nothing. This guy spent, I think it was 12,000. It was, and this happens all day long. Like the three of us and the four of us are we're in the know. Most people just don't know. And people are getting robbed daily in this. It's crazy. People want so much to be part of something or have that piece that they will psych themselves into, wow, this person. And when somebody tells you they don't want to give it to you, then there's that whole thing. Oh, now you can't get what you want. So now there's this extra value. And then there's that game that's played. And as a collector, I mean, I've been on the other end of this where I want something, you become obsessed. If there's something on eBay that you're bidding on and you got 7 days, you're like, shit, I just want to buy it now. And you got to wait 7 days. And it's like $2. And then like there's 3 minutes left and it's like, 1,700. But you just want it. And you're going to wait. I set timers on my phone, Sunday, an hour before.
All the time.
Yeah, you
All
have
the
this
time.
record coming, and I was telling Terry a couple of months ago, one of my favorite records of all time, an acetate, which I have one of. I didn't even know there were two. Another one came up, and I'm on the phone having a fight with my ex-wife while this thing is going off. And I get off the phone with her. I'm sitting in the car pissed off. I'm like, holy shit. I look back, $15. Still kills me. Still kills me.
You'll never get over
$15. Kills me.
On your tombstone, it's going to say $15.
Kills me.
That's a terrible comp to have out there. You should be ashamed of yourself, Johnny.
There's
I hate to hear that.
What about? Do you have to snipe it? Can't you? Couldn't you have just put it logged in a bid?
I used to, so check out how crazy that is. So I was using Easy Sniper for a long time. Then I kind of didn't do it for a while, forgot my thing. It wouldn't let me in. I had two different eBay accounts. One I was selling, one I was buying. The one that I was using to buy, I closed. All of these Larry David moments that no way, no way, no way. Yes, every one of those things. There's no way that could happen. That's not going to happen. Yes, domino effect. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's your answer. Yes, I should have used Easy Sniper. It did not work. I couldn't use it. I was going off of, I have to remember at 2:45, 3 o'clock, this thing is going off. 5 to 3, my ex-wife decides she wants to throw me out the thing. And that's where we go. Horrible.
Going
Horrible.
back to that authentication of the Billy Preston album, I like that. I like that sticker. It's very non-intrusive, and I assume it's got some holographic, or some code you could punch up on a website, and it'll all your information will pop up there.
Yeah,
the
JSA
album.
is really good. Typically, JSA is really good. They're one of the few companies that actually put photo. They attach the photo into the database. I'm actually shocked that the other companies do it. ACOA, which is like they really focus on entertainment, and they don't do any sports really, but they do entertainment and music, or actors and music. I think they include pictures. They're sort of an emerging. They've been around for a few years, but they've got a good following. Again, as a company who really tries to do what's best. Unfortunately, there's a couple companies out there that have just sort of sold their soul, and they partner with giant corporations, and you see a lot of stuff getting certified by them that you're just like, there's zero chance that's real.
JSA was acquired. Was it CGC?
Yeah,
or?
exactly.
Interesting.
And
JSA, I have a lot of my things are JSA. I have Craftwork. I have a bunch of stuff that was JSA certified. I actually think they are, like you said, the most legit. I've had episodes with PSA in the past where I kind of
Yep.
was a little bit the autograph thing is really, really, I mean, I would love to think that the process you were speaking about really is the case, but I've had things signed in front of me that somebody was like, I don't know about that, and I'm just like, yeah, it's the human aspect, and then I find more on the baseball card end of it. There's like the club,
Mhm.
so certain people are going to be at Mantle 9s and 10s. And you're not getting in that world. The best one is a 7. Because when I did I had every mantle except the 57. And my 53, you could cut steak with. This thing was beautiful. Borders, colors, centering, and it comes back a 7. I mean, today a 7 in the PSA world is kind of impossible, but the card was clearly a 9.
Mm.
But they give me a 9, and now the rest of the guys in their crew aren't so beautiful. Saturday Night Fever, when the priest decides he's not going to be a priest, John Travolta tells the mother, "Oh, now you just got 3 shit children." It's like, it's like you have this at this level. If you bring us all together, now we're all level. So they need to set that, which is horrible for collecting. And what you said before, once these grading things came into it, that's when I didn't even want anything to do with baseball cards. I got out of it. I got back in later because I loved it. But when I met Joe DiMaggio in the 80s, nobody cared about. I mean, it was nice to get him to sign a bunch of stuff, but it wasn't about reselling. There was no such thing as PSA. That didn't exist. And I remember when I had him sign stuff, he would say, he said, this is going to be worth money someday. I said, Mr. DiMaggio, personalize every one of them. I have no intention on signing the stuff. I mean, selling the stuff. And he didn't, he just kept just Joe DiMaggio. I had him sign ridiculous amount of stuff. And then one more story I want to tell you before we go back. I'm sure are you familiar with Jimmy Castor? The
Well,
Jimmy Castor bunch? You know that, right? Him?
It sounds vaguely familiar. I don't know why.
He had a very big record called Just Begun, which was one of the biggest in the hip hop world of the early up rocking before breakdancing.
Okay.
It's Just Begun was probably the most iconic song that was played at every one of those talks. Just Begun. It was just the breaks and everything. And I had him in a club in the 80s, and the beginning of the record goes.
Oh yeah, of course,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
of course.
everybody knows the record. So there was a little room we had. I'm not gonna say backstage because the club was small, but there was a little room. So I knocked on the door, and he's going, and he was just practicing, which was blowing my fucking mind. So he's doing this shit. So I go over to him. I'm like, I see, another 10 minutes. So I said, could you sign my album? So he takes out, he had a pen on him that said, support the Jimmy Castor movement, which I actually have. He gave me a copy. But the crazy part was he took the record out, he signed the label. Then he signed the back of so the label just says Jimmy Castor, but then he wrote "Dear Johnny, my best Jimmy" on the album cover, and he said, "Yo, this will be worth money someday." And he had great penmanship too. You don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
He really had, so that impressed me. But the Jimmy Castor thing, I have the pen around somewhere. It's like one of those pens with the erasers on top, which is crazy. Support the Jimmy Castor movement, which is great. But it was listening to him practice before he came out, and then he saw my album. That was one of those memorable times.
How cool, man. How cool. How cool.
I think you guys mentioned something that I thought was really interesting, and that's every one of these companies. I'm sure it's happened to JSA, and you mentioned PSA, Johnny, but every one of these companies has encapsulated something that we know is not right, and I think that's because at the end of the day, it's just an opinion. But on the positive side, it certainly makes transacting over the internet or long distances much easier. I mean, when these things are, you have an opinion from someone who's, respected, it certainly makes collecting much easier. I mean, Johnny, you talk about eBay and the ability to just buy something now rather than to hunt it all over the place. I mean, how can you trust something if it doesn't have anyone's opinion other than the seller who's totally conflicted? So from that standpoint, and you follow the auction results, and it started with coins, and then they started slabbing other things like comics, and all the coin guys would buy the comics because they trusted it because it was in a slab now. And so, that moved to cards, and then now you see people doing it with autographs and records, and I get it. I get why bidders at auctions love it, and I get why purists like you, Johnny, who love to play their records, don't want to put them in these slabs. I mean, any thoughts on that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, with true collectors, I have these conversations all the time. A really good buddy of mine who is one of the most prolific in-person graphers in history. I mean, he's an absolute wild man. The stuff that this guy has done. I mean, to the point that he has been approached several times to do a multi-part series on what he did. I mean, I'm talking about he has broken into the Grammys and the Oscars multiple times under false identities, and I mean, he's a maniac, and he's also amazing at what he does. I mean, he's got to have 10,000 plus pieces of really incredible pieces because he's gotten such one-on-one action. And he and I talk about it, and I talk to the auction house owners and all these people about the direction of encapsulation, right? Because it's on one end, right, it's a very, very margin rich business for the encapsulators, who are, of course, are required. It makes sense that PSA is doing all the encapsulation, and that Beckett is moving towards it, and that JSA has been acquired. It makes perfect sense because it's such an add-on, a margin rich add-on for it. I don't know. I am somebody who is very tangibly driven, so it's not like I'm pulling my pieces out all the time and holding them and looking at them, but there is something that, to me, and I'm not saying that I'm right, nor am I saying that I'm in the majority, but there's something that it loses that organic nature. The reason that I love this stuff as it is, if you're a baseball card collector, it takes you back to sitting across from your buddy and trying to work deals and holding these cards and the smell of the bubble gum on them, all these really cool things. For me, as somebody who has spent thousands of hours crate digging and flipping through records and holding them and looking at them and that, sort of that musty smell and everything, it just means something to me. And again, I don't know if I'm right or wrong in terms of the longevity of what will drive value. But that's not relevant to me. That's not why.
I mean, I was going to say, you never sell anything. Yeah. So that changes, dramatically your experience from most collectors. Because, myself included. I mean, I don't, in my personal collection, I rarely sell stuff, but I have sold pieces when I needed to raise funds or, maybe to sell something to trade up and buy something else that I really wanted that I didn't have the funds to buy. But you never sell anything. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
The only time I'll ever sell is if I see a better quality piece of like what I had. So for instance, I had a complete Queen Night at the Opera, and it was good. I mean, it was a really, really nice piece, and I had that, but I upgraded it. So I'll sell at some point. I'll sell the other one that I've got.
Right. No, to upgrade, that makes sense.
I have a question, a couple of questions. So how many pieces do you have?
1,500. I don't know. I mean, signed pieces.
And it's all albums or CD covers as well. It's mixed.
No, I don't. I do very little CD, and that kills me because as you and I were talking about before we got on this, I'm a product of 90s R&B. I mean, that's really when I was my coming of age, and that's what spoke to me, even though most of my peers at that time, they were listening to Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and all of that, like it was grunge, when I was going through high school. But I was like the lone listener in my high school of R&B, 90s R&B, which was, obviously very mature subject matters for the most part back then. And so, but I would say 85% of my collection, 90% of my collection is vinyl. And then I have, the remainder is, the remaining 15% is handwritten lyrics, signed lyrics, set lists, guitar, music. I every once in a while I'll get something. I don't know what I did with it here. So this is sort of cool. So this is a piece of jewelry, and I only have probably 7-10 pieces of jewelry in my collection from artists. But I had a grandfather who I didn't really know well. I had moved to Florida, but I loved him, and the older I get, the more similarities I see of him. But the one thing that I really remembered about my grandpa was he always had this really cool cat's eye ring. I just loved it. He was a big Vegas guy. He was a big, big gambler. He was an attorney by education, wasn't a good attorney at all, but he was a pretty prolific gambler. So he just had that look, and he grew up in old Vegas and all that stuff, and he was bald, but he had slick back hair and a mustache. He was hilarious and cool and everything, and he just had this Don-esque aura about him. And so I always just remembered I loved his cat's eye ring. And so a few years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I saw Tom Parker, Elvis's manager. There was absolute provenance on it, very solid record. Elvis's cat's eye ring, the ring that he wore for a period of time, he had gifted to Tom Parker because Tom loved it, and I ended up buying it. So it's sort of cool. Like, I mean, I love Elvis, and so it's like a cool piece. Probably won't be able to see it very well, but
that's very cool.
But it's a really cool. This was Elvis's cat's eye ring.
That is pretty
cool.
That's
great.
That's a great piece.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I have a question about the autographs. I was wondering, and I know that now, there are companies that are starting to slab records. Do you ever have a fear of the autograph fading or any of that? I know that when you get something framed, like I have a bunch of Zeppelin lithographs autographed by the artist, and you have to have them in the
UV.
Well, not just the UV frame, but you have to actually have it recessed with the I can't think of the
like matted.
Well, yeah, kind of like matte. So you have to have it recessed so it's not touching the glass, obviously, because the older it gets. I know I had autographs and stuff just from the sunlight or even fluorescent lights in my office at Atlantic. I had a George Benson album signed, and it was up high where the fluorescent light discolored the album. Which I didn't even know that was a possibility. But my question is, have you ever had anything fade, and are you afraid to put them in plastic and stuff? Because if the plastic is too close to it, it can possibly get the imprint of the signature.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I've gone to extraordinary lengths. So I have sort of like a dedicated room that I have I have 284 albums on display, and they're behind Lucite. And when I first put them up, I was neurotic about it. I hired somebody to come out and put the tinting all over all the windows that shine into the room.
Wow.
And then I was like, you know what? I'm still not confident in this. So what I did was I had them, all of them, professionally photographed, and then I had just replicas made of every single one, and prints made, so 12 by 12 prints of each
Yes.
one. And then I took down all the actual records and I put the prints
I
up in
love
the
that.
Lucite.
You really are. It's like, it's not. This is where my brain goes. That's wild, and we really are crazy people. You really have to be in that head to even think. And I'm with you. Like you're saying it, I'm like, oh yeah, I would do that.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat. I would do that. There is not. You're not saying one thing that I'm like, oh, this guy. No, I am with you. I am, and I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you something which I'm not telling you to scare you, but I'm going to tell you something that was one of the most horrible things that happened to me with autographs. I buy a Michael Jordan basketball from Upper Deck, legit, the whole thing with their little stupid sticker, the whole thing. Black basketball, signs it in silver. Rare piece. Got this early, probably mid 90s, before Jordan became the king of the universe. But it was still an expensive piece. Get the thing. I buy the special stupid thing behind it for the basketball, the whole thing. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this thing is it's not as vibrant as it was. Get to the point 5 years ago, the autograph is completely, the ink is completely in the ball. 100. You can, certain light, you can barely see, but you're looking at, it's a black ball. I could take it to the court and start shooting hoops. Nobody would have any idea. So I call up Upper Deck. I said, listen, I bought this thing. If you look it up, I know you have your shit registered with the code, and I have a jersey, Jordan jersey, the whole thing. If you look it up, you'll see it. They're like, oh, we never heard of that before. I said, oh, I have the magical ball. I have the one ball. I have the one magical ball that this happened. I'm like, listen, like I'll take it on. And at that point, I was like, I would never go for silver ink again. You got to go Sharpie on the orange ball if you got to do basketball. And they wouldn't do shit for me. I had a similar situation. I don't know if you collect these, but I think it was Danbury Mint or Franklin, one of them. They did a thing. They did two Jordan things, and they were like these stands, and they're like these plastic posts, and it's like one of them has 4 Jordan shots, one of them has 3. So it's like the one shot with his hand, he's doing the thing, whatever it was. So they're beautiful pieces, and they were going for some money. I go down to my basement where all my stuff was one time, and I'm looking at it, and the basketball thing is on the floor. So I'm like, did somebody come down? Like, nobody has access to the thing. So I'm kind of looking at it, and the back part broke. Just by itself, the thing broke. Okay. Then I start looking around, and I see one of his fingers is gone. So I'm looking, and there's like a little finger like on this thing on the base. So then I start talking to people like, oh yeah, those things, they fall apart. So I contacted Franklin Mint or Danbury, whatever it was. I said, listen, I have these 2 things. I said, the one's got 4 fingers. This one, the backboard came off, the plastic, whatever. Never heard of that before. You go on eBay right now, everybody's selling those 3 fingers. It's like, to get a 4-finger Jordan's a rarity. And I'm like, it's just amazing how, like, they just, instead of just doing the right thing, it's just, unfortunately, our passion becomes, they use it against it. Our passion is used against us so much of the time when we're on the other side, because people that are just doing this for money, and I'm not going to fault them because business is business, but people, they see us coming. We don't have I know I don't have a poker face. People, oh, we're going to see this guy's collection. Don't show emotion. Don't be excited. Can't help myself. I see some that I haven't seen. It's gonna show. I'm not that guy. And I've been in many situations where people like, listen, you just downplay it, and it's just not me. It's gonna come out. If I'm looking for something, it's gonna come out.
I'm with you on all of that. And I think, imagine how educated you are, how much experience you have, your perspective on all of this. And then imagine that mom or that dad who just wants to get their son or daughter something nice, and they're getting
Yeah.
taken left and right. That is the part of the
Horrible.
industry that kills
Horrible.
me. That I respect what you're saying, that business is business, but when it's, and I don't think what you're saying at all, by the way, it's hilarious. The four finger of Jordan versus three finger, but business is business until it's business is fraud. And that's the
Yes.
part of the industry that just absolutely kills me, because there are so many people who buy things on eBay, or they walk into a store in Las Vegas where everything on the wall is fake, and they'll pay crazy premiums, and they think they're doing something for their kid, or somebody who they care about, and they're just putting a fake piece on their wall. And I'm in so many different autograph forums on Facebook, and you see it happen all the time, where some unsuspecting person is like, "Hey, I'm just looking for an opinion. Can somebody tell me if this Beatles album that my husband bought me for $500 is real?" And everybody has just got like the hand on face emoji or the angry emoji. I mean, it's a shark infested territory.
The problem there, and it's funny you say that, because I just came across that. I'm in a lot of record collecting, which I never used to join, but lately I've been joining it more just to really see and get a pulse on the ridiculousness that's in the world. And it's very funny that most of the times, more than not, the more opinionated people clearly don't know what they're talking about. And oh yeah, hey, I'm just getting into records. Is the Beatles white? Like, you get, it's just, if people just be like, 'cause I like to be sarcastic, and I'll just go on the post and just put the stupidest thing. Like, well, I'm looking for the rarest record, and I'll be like, oh yeah, Mambo number 5. I'll just throw the stupidest thing into the atmosphere, because I'm just like, why are you asking that question? First of all, Google it. AI. Like, why would you go to 20 idiots on a Facebook page? But I had an incident. And I was telling Terry, I have a Prince record, a Purple Rain. It's arguably the rarest. It's this Purple Rain test pressing. There's one made, and it's got the date, it's handwritten. It's a crazy piece. And I put up a picture at one point on one of these Prince pages, and the Prince people are just as crazy as the rest of them. And it's people, oh, that date, that date can't be right. Test pressings are made 6 months before release. And I'm like, who are you? What do you know about I press records for 30 something years. I press records at the Warner Music Group for 15 years. What do you know about anything? Please tell me. Tell me one bit that and this oh yeah, you don't know that's a bootleg. And I'm like, do you have no, yeah, okay, that's a bootleg. Let me show you his first album, Acetate. Like, it's so ridiculous. And I think the worst part, Terry had asked me a couple of shows ago, you know, have I showed a lot of people stuff and everything else? And I know what I have is legit. I know the value in the whole thing. And I don't need people to be like, oh wow, Johnny D, you're the kid. I don't need that. But more than not needing the hype, I don't want anyone, because I do have friends that'll be like, oh yeah, that's nice, but there's like a little smudge, like on an autograph. It's like, I don't need that, because I wouldn't do that to someone. And I remember I had my friend at Arista, and he said, he goes, yo, Whitney's up here signing. I'm gonna get her to sign, the album. It was the My Love Is Your Love album. And so he sends it over to me, messages it over from 57th Street. He was at Arista. He had actually got me a beautiful Santana autograph as well. So the Whitney comes over, and it was like, all the best, Whitney. And there's a little smudge in it. So I called him up, and this is a guy I helped out a lot in the business. I always fucked with him. I'm like, Danny, I will tell you this. One time I sent him a Rocky 5 poster, because on Rocky 5, the guy tries to beat Rocky up.
Yeah.
Rocky told him. So
Yeah.
I would just try to check him and say, don't forget, I'm the guy who taught you this fucking game. So I used to send him like all kinds of weird shit. So he sends me over the Whitney, and there's a little smudge. And I said, you know something? Regularly, I'd come back, I'd run to your office, switch it out with yours because of the smudge. But I'm going to turn this into a positive. That's Whitney's finger that's smudged in the autograph. So you know what? I'm keeping it. So I have that I have that framed with her little finger smudge in the all the best or whatever she wrote on it.
I got a crazy autograph story. So I was attending a gallery show of this artist who drew comic books in the 70s and 80s for Marvel. And he was very famous for for one particular run of comics. And I won't say which one, but it had maybe 10 to 15 covers in the run. And they were selling some of the covers, and some of the collectors who bought them were bringing them up to the artist to have them signed. And normally when you get an artist to sign a piece of art, you want it to kind of be in the margin. You kind of direct it. Some people will point specifically, or keep it in the protective mylar, only revealing the portion that is able to be signed. But this this one guy who was getting an autograph, and I felt like he was kind of getting it for someone else. He was like, someone else owned the cover, and he had sent it with this guy to get an autograph, and he gives it to the artist, and the artist takes like a thick red Sharpie and signs it like right down the middle of the art. And it went from being a population of like 15 covers to 14 immediately, because it's just like, the autographs were $5, and the art was probably worth like 50,000. But now this art is just like a giant red autograph.
Yes.
It was I was mortified watching it. I mean, and the whole group of people who watched it were just mortified and felt so bad for whoever owned it, and this kid who was there getting the autograph on this piece of art. But
that's a thing, because I know for years autographed cards were lesser value. Now all of a sudden I feel like the tides changed.
Totally.
But for years, and I never wanted an autographed card. When I sold my cards, I had a Jeter, I had a Stan Musial, Mickey Mantle, Collier Street. I had some cool ones, but I never ever thought of those. I always felt you want the autograph on a separate index card or something, or on a piece. But on a card, growing up, that was like, nobody wanted that. Even with the grading years ago, it has changed, but a PSA in the 90s of an autographed Mantle, night and day from today. Night and day. Because Mantle's autograph is all over the place. So having a Mantle autograph card, it's not really special. It's more special to have that card at a higher grade for the condition than to say Mantle signed it. I mean, would you rather have a PSA 9 of a 52 or a PSA 6 with his autograph? I'd rather have the 9.
For sure. For sure.
Well, I think we were talking about the other day, I had visited you in your office. It was a while back, maybe like a few months ago, maybe to drop off that Fat Boys piece. And we were talking about Michael Jordan autograph. And, since then, I think Pharrell has started an auction house, and they had sold a Jordan rookie card that was autographed for $2.5 million. And it's, that card is not rare. Maybe you could say in that condition, in a 10, it's rare. Although there are probably, cases and boxes full of those unopened with thousands and thousands of those Jordans.
Yes.
And he lives an hour from here. You could probably go up to Jupiter and, run into him at some restaurant. And obviously he knows the value of his signature, and especially on a card. And, I know at one point, maybe even still, he has an exclusive contract about signing cards, but it's crazy. $2.5 million for a card that's not rare, and a signature you could still get.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan, both by contract with Upper Deck, and look, he is inarguably one of the all-time greats in sports. He is also one of the most notoriously difficult human beings to interface with. He is just incredibly arrogant, and
he's very padded too. He's got goons around. You can't get.
So I think when I had seen you, I was beyond excited, because I had been working for a long time a Space Jam soundtrack. So I do a lot of soundtracks, because it's sort of a way for me to, even though I'm not like a big movie guy, I do love the soundtracks, and it's a way to sort of add cool actors to.
Wait, I got to stop you right there. I did the Space Jam. I did the gold record. I designed it.
There's so many weird things that are going on, you know, that I don't even want to interrupt you. You brought up
No,
Saturday Night.
I hate to interrupt you,
You're
but I
not-
gotta tell you real quick, and it's funny because this was my interaction with Jordan's guy. What happened was when we had the soundtrack, I told my boss, let me design. I want to design the gold records, so they made these bullshit little ones. The CD one, half the face of Bugs, half the face of Jordan, Space Jam, whatever. I designed the limited edition. I think we did 10. We did a long, big one,
Yeah.
and we used basketball rubber as
Oh,
the
that's sick. The frame.
frame.
Sick.
So like there was one for like the Valazzoli, who was the head of the company. One went to Jordan, one to Jordan's manager. Whoever, I don't know if it was Lionsgate, whoever did the movie. You know, there were 10. There were just 10. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just didn't want to, because as you mentioned Space Jam, that's a little bit, that's kind of crazy. So yes. So so what were you trying to say? You were collecting autographs around that? Well, all the artists?
Yeah, so it's that's a cool piece. That's a really unique piece because, as you know better than me, mid and late '90s R&B and hip hop soundtracks.
R. Kelly, Bigger Record. I believe I can fly.
Everything, but everything. You know, appearing on a soundtrack would really launch a lot of careers too, right? So you'd get on these compilations. So that not only is that a star-studded actor, you know, you got Bill Murray and DeVito and of course Jordan, but you had great athletes. You had Barkley, I think Patrick Ewing, Muggsy Bogues, Larry Johnson. So you had all these great names. So I've got almost everybody on there. My grapher in New York in Yonkers, she's working on Danny DeVito for me. She went after Bill Murray for like 3 days. He is extremely difficult.
He was in Brooklyn a month ago.
Well, that's when she went for him. So I sent it up there. I have a couple Caddyshack albums I'm working on. One has Dangerfield, one doesn't. So she's been tracking them and she couldn't get them. But she got Jordan one-on-one. Wow. And it's impossible. I mean, it's absolutely impossible. And she got him with full video proof signing my Space Jam. And the reason that story's great is because I needed Barkley on it. And Barkley's also a difficult signer, and he's tough to get to, right? Because he's always got handlers, and with TV and everything, he's just always on the move. And even though he's quite affable on TV, he's not necessarily that way for people wanting his autograph.
Yes.
But she stopped him. She's so good. She stopped him, and she said, I guess Mike's good enough for this album, but you're not. And he turned around and he's like, you got Mike to sign this album? And she's like, yep. And she showed it to him. And he's like, I got to sign it then. and so he would have never stopped. He would have never stopped to sign it. But yeah, like I need Mike on 2 other pieces. I've got a really cool piece you'll appreciate knowing your background. So I have been working for 5 or 6 years on Kurtis Blow's album. I think it's just called Blow, actually. It's his face. It's got like a beige cover, and it's his face. But that's the album that Basketball was on. So I grew up loving sports and everything. So all of the living guys who are referenced in that song, I've gotten to sign it. So it's I just got Earl Monroe and Elgin Baylor and Oscar Robertson, Kareem, Jerry West, Rick Barry. So I've got like 15 names on it, and I'm down to I got Ralph Sampson on it. I'm down to like Jordan. I think I need one other name, but it's got all these names all over it, and I need Jordan
amazing,
on it. It's a cool piece.
That's amazing.
So that the Space Jam, I need a few more names on, but it's cool. And now I'm just starting to open it up. Like I'm a huge D'Angelo fan, and he was on that, so I got to get him. And but so you said something that's killing me because in my world of music, right? There's like my top 10, and then there's everybody else who I enjoy or I've got stories with. But in a different galaxy is Prince. So Prince was everything to me, including like the most seminal album in my life was 1999. That was the real album where lyrics, like music was, where music changed from beats to just it's like color entered my world in terms of how I was now hearing and seeing music was that album. And I brought that one because I never really thought Prince after 1989 stopped signing completely. He did 2 or 3 signings he used to do like a lot of in-store signings, particularly in Europe. He did a couple, when he changed his name, he did a signing at Tower Records, and he was supporting that, but he was an impossible autograph. He was an impossible autograph, and there was a very, very famous collector who did a lot of work out in New York, and I got this one from him. This is a 1999 album, and this is like a very vintage Prince signature. His signature really evolved over time.
Yes.
But that that was a cool piece. I brought some.
Early on, he used to have that. His P was almost like a loop.
It
Right? It
was
was like a thing. And then it went into because I have one right here where like God is something print, and he did that one.
He got very much into when he sort of had post Black Album, when he got into
Yes.
the Love Sexy, and he really found
Yes.
God. He was raised in a very religious family, but then when he found God,
Yeah, he
again,
became a Jehovah Witness, I
he
believe.
did
Right?
late, and that's forbidden to sign. So like
Yes.
you can't profit off your name. So he was one of the. That's why his autographs are so ridiculously expensive, because he. But I brought something else that I thought you would think is cool. This was so when he changed his name, to the symbol, he
Yes.
had a diamond necklace made of it. And I don't know if you can see this. Or
Wow, that's beautiful.
So I don't know to what degree you could see this or not.
Yeah.
But, so this
And
was
that's the actual one?
this was the one. I believe he had multiple, but this was the one that he gifted to his wife, who then they got divorced. But he
Mayte.
Mayte, exactly. He gifted it to her, and I don't know if it was financial troubles or if it was she's very much into animal awareness and adopting animals, and she has her own shelter. I don't know if she was raising money for it or what it was, but she sold a large part of her collection through Julian's, and so this was a really cool piece that I got.
Wow.
Oh, that is cool. That's very cool. That's one of the cooler pieces I've seen in a
that's
while.
a pretty rare. I mean, to think that he wore this and that this was one of his pieces is a really cool thing that meant so much.
So your collection is way deeper than just the signed albums. I mean, you have some crazy stuff.
So I have some crazy stuff.
So when you go out to dinner to Atlantic Avenue, you ever put that on?
I only wear that out to Atlantic. I'm not very interesting otherwise. I wear it just so that people have something to talk to me about.
Talk about a showpiece. I mean, that's fantastic.
So,
This guy has to come here. We got to get him in the museum over here. We got to get him.
I do anything. Yeah. I do anything to come up there. I'll be in New York in October.
Oh
yeah, get my info from Terry. I'd love to see. I'd love to meet.
Likewise.
No, you would definitely. I feel like he'd be a kid in a candy store. You guys together have definitely. I had a feeling that there was going to be a good synergies with you guys. Well, look. Thanks so much for coming, Jeremy, and I think it was a great show. Thank you for listening. And
Jeremy, it was great talking to you, man.
Johnny, great to meet you.
Very great stuff, man.
Great to meet you, man. Look forward to meeting you in person.